Basically, I'm going to do a strut, lower control arm, tie rod end, sway bar link on this Volvo 2007 S80 V8 all-wheel drive. It's P2 chassis, I guess, if I understand all that right. Here's the parts that are going to go in it. I went with all Volvo. Found good prices on all this stuff. This is a big wear item, I guess. These two, everybody complains about it. A dealership told me needed to be done, and the struts were starting to go right around 60, 65, a little soon, I think. And they wanted like $3,000 or $4,000 to do it with parts and labor. I got all the parts here for about $1,400, which pretty good deal considering each of the active struts. There's the control motor. Are like $400 a piece. If you're gonna, I've already done the driver's side, and I'm gonna do the passenger side. So I learned some lessons from that side. I might show you later on in the video. And I'd say I've done it all without getting any of the Volvo special tools, and I'll show you tricks to get around that. The only thing is, if you're going to just do struts and you're not going to do control arm, breaking this guy off, you're going to destroy it unless you get the Volvo special tool. You're going to need a fairly substantial set of tools. On the big side, probably 21 inch, I think, or excuse me, 20 millimeter, maybe 24 on the tie rod. 2 jacks come in handy. I've already taken off the this cover that covers up the part of the engine to the windshield. Not very much rust on it at all for being a 9-year-old car with almost 80 on it now. But you're still going to use penetrating oil on it. I had to do on the other side to get stuff to move easy. So basically every bolt that I'm going to take, here's on the link, on the sway bar link. These big bolts there, that one there, the one for the knuckle, ball joint, and for the tie rod. The brake ABS sensor wire right there. And decided I was going to take the brake caliper off later. I broke them off, but messed myself up. I'm going to wait and take off the tie rod here first, and then I can turn that out. So got it off. Used air to get it off with the top link is off. The tie rod locking nut is bigger than what I have, so I've been using a crescent wrench, and it does work fine. The next one down is a 26 millimeter on the actual tie rod itself. I'm going to just strike this guy with a hammer right here, 2.5 pounder. You don't have to smack it really hard, just give it a couple good whack. Alright, there we go. I did give it a whack on top. I normally don't want to do that. I'm replacing this, so I don't care. Next, I'm going to take these bolts off underneath here and here. On the other side, I was able to use one of my long 21 millimeter wrenches to hold down in there. A little harder to get back to get this one up into here as well. I might have to move my jack. Where I got all the bolts out. There's only one bolt holding that up, and that's up here. Everything else is done, so I'm going to pull out. The axle's going to drop off. And I have a jack underneath here that I'm going to use to control it because I'm bringing out a lot of metal. Control arm, knuckle, strut. And I've had the jack up and down a couple times to get that bushing loose down there. That's the pain in the ass one. That's going to give me problems putting it back together as well. That's the one that makes this job actually a total pain in the butt. Now it's out. I still have to undo this. I'm just going to use air tool on that. Take this guy out, just a hand tool. I'm going to use the little pickle bar. This is going to destroy destroy this, but that's alright, I'm replacing it. The special tool that comes if you ever have to do axles on it, because you're going to have to pretty much take this out, or at least disconnect it here and some other things. And they make a tool that I think it connects in right here, and then it pushes the ball joint down so you can reuse it. Because if not, then you have to replace the whole drive. New tie rod end on. I had to spray some more loosener on there because it was starting to spin off. 17mm on that. This one I backed off 26 times. The other side was 28 times. Put it back up so it'll be close until I can get my alignment. Also, this is the point to take off the bottom stabilizer and put it back on. To get the top nut off of the strut, I got it compressed here. You have to have a special tool. You can get by without having it. Basically, I use the breaker bar here to break it off, to just get it going. And now the hex lock's going to hold it, and I'm going to use the vice grip on an 18mm socket to turn it. Don't do it if you don't want your socket screwed up, because the vice grip teeth will chew into the finishing and stuff, so that's the only downside. I've seen the tool for like $19. And I'll put it back on the same way, and I'll hand tighten it. It's supposed to go to 50 Newton meters, so that's not really that tight. Alright, the shock's back on the knuckle. 110 Newton pounds there. Make sure it seats all the way down here. That little groove right there. I made the mistake last time of attaching the lower control arm ball joint here and then trying to put it on, but it caused me huge problems, many hours, more than I want to admit. And I think I videotaped it to show how to get myself back out of it. I had to do some crazy stuff to make it work. So I'm going to try it this way. I put the control arm in and loosely attached it. The hardest one to get is this one, this stupid bushing here. This guy's pretty easy to do, but this one is the one that's a pain in the butt. And that's the one that fails on everything that makes your car noisy and squeaky and stuff. So, alright, the top of the strut's attached up to the towers, attached up top. This is a mistake I made last time. I connected these before I put the control arm in. So now I'm going to see how hard it is to get this up and under and get the axle in at the same time. And if this works out as quick as it's been going, this is the right way of doing it. Worked out really good. My fears about tightening the bolt were starting to come true, or the nut, I mean, because the ball joint was spinning, and I can't get the hex in there because of the axle. Started to try to push the axle out to see if that would work, and I got the bright idea. Now let's just put the jack up there, because the way the conical shape or the cone shape of the fitting that goes in to fit real tight between the bolt when the nut comes down made it snug up, and so just by jacking it up and putting a couple 100 pounds of pressure on it did the trick, and I was able to hand tighten it to hopefully 100 Newton meters. Well, that did it. That worked out really good. Took me a lot less time, only a few hours to do this side. So yeah, the tie rod in, that's a 90. It's 100 for the lower ball joint. 170 Newton meters for Each one of these, 140 for the other bushing right there. You see the bolt sticking through. 70 for the bottom of the stabilizer link. 60 for the top one. These are all Newton pounds. If I accidentally said foot pounds on any of these, yeah, ignore that. It's all Newton pounds. The brake calipers are each bolt is 200 Newton pounds. They're on the back side here. The bolt that holds that squeezes the strut to the knuckle, that's 110 Newton pounds. And this one is a strange one. It's 35 plus a 90-degree rotate on the second stage. And this one, these are a 30. This is on the left side. I know I was showing you on the right side. This is putting the control arm back on, tightening up the lower ball joint. There's a torque wrench on. It's 100 Newton meters to torque this guy down. It's a lot easier to do this off the car. Put the control arm and hub, knuckle I guess, down here. Now it's time to put the shock back in. Right there. Goes right there. So you can see how this sits in there. It's going to go right down onto the sheet metal part that's machined in there. That's well welded on there. The bolt back in and torque it down. So the torque on this top knuckle where the strut goes in is 110 Newton pounds. There's the whole assembly I'm going to stick back in. That's how I took it out. It's just easier to put it back in that way. I'm hoping. I have it on a roller cart. I have another jack over here. Alright, I got it jacked up here. Use the floor jack on the back. You get your strut connected to the top first. Then you feed in your axle. I put the nut in loosely to hold it in place as I'm putting it in. Guide up through this ball joint first. No, excuse me, this, not ball joint, of course. There we go. This bushing that's down in there. Now I'll put this bushing in by jacking up, and I just put my foot over here and push it in. Now I use it to line up my other holes. You just, there's a better look at it. So, gotta have this for this job. Here's my problem. This bushing needs to go up into a bolt. That's right there. I was able to get this bushing on, both bolts in, hooked up. First up there, strut. The problem here is I'm going to apply some leverage. I have to rethink it on the other side, how to get this guy in a little bit better. Alright, I finally got it. I think the way I put it together is not what we want to do to get this bearing or bushing in there the right way. Basically, I've had the jack totally compress the strut while it's on the car all the way up to get this to pivot in there right. But that causes it to pull out this way, away from the car. So what I had to do is put this come along in here, right there, and it basically attaches to the front of the control arm, and I pulled it together. Didn't take much pressure at all, so don't worry. Looks like a horrible thing, but it only took a couple pounds of pressure to apply to pull this into place.